Another exciting session of Torah study with Rabbi P. Here we are on a cloudy Wednesday afternoon in Long Beach, California, with all of my good friends. Give them a good shout out. Come on. Hello. There you go. There you go. Thank you very much for that. Now, there is a general rule in the Torah. Ein muktim u'mucher b'Torah. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, were not written in a chronological order. I mean, let me qualify that. It doesn't mean that Moses was born before Abraham. Of course, Abraham had Isaac, and Isaac had Jacob, and Jacob had a son, and God. But there are sections in the Torah that were put in before the chronological events of what happened later. We're at that juncture right now when we're reading the Torah. We're reading the story of the architectural putting together of the ark and of the other vessels of the sanctuary. That's what this Torah portion is all about. Giving the commandment to build a sanctuary, giving them all of the instructions on how to build the vessels of the sanctuary, but the commandment of doing that is going to come later on, in a later portion. I'm going to let you in why. Why do we need a sanctuary for? What does God need a sanctuary for? Where is God? He's everywhere, right? So if you want to worship Him in the desert, go ahead. You want to worship in the forest, go ahead. You want to climb a mountain, go ahead. You want to go to a ditch, go ahead. Well, what Long Beach, California is as good as any place to have a worship God. So why do we need a sanctuary? So I'm going to let you in. We're not going to talk about this today. We'll save this for next week. But there was a little incident that happened with the Jews in the desert, and it involved a golden calf. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what led up to the golden calf and what the ramifications were. We're going to have to wait till next week, for that. That led to, it was like a series of one episode after an episode, and God saw something interesting. God saw that the Jews, very good, very nice. We got them out of Egypt. We got them into the desert, very nice. We gave them the Torah, okay? They were kvetching, all right? But what do you expect from Jews? They're always going to kvetch and complain, right, about something. But what he wasn't ready for is this idea that 40 days after giving the Torah, the Jews would turn their back on him. And they'd say, oh, you know what, Moses is gone. There's a gold and the golden calf. Now, the reasons behind it and all of that we'll leave for next week. But what happens then is he comes up to Moses and he says to Moses, okay, you know what? I see here something that people are going to need. There's a tremendous need to connect with something physical. Spirituality is great, and we strive for it, we want it, and God still is everywhere, and God still is everything, and no matter what. But I see that for the human being that has just come out of Egypt, that's now in the desert, I think they're going to need something to connect with. And that is what we're going to do. We're going to give them a physical place where they can focus all of their attention to this one spot. And through this spot, I will commune with you, and you will commune with me, and I'll talk to you there, and you'll talk to me there. And this is going to now become the focal point, because human beings need that. They're going to need that. So this is how the chapter starts off. It's the first time in the history of people, as far as we know, that God establishes a building campaign. Okay? And makes Moses, who was a good man and a wonderful leader, into the head of the Ways and Means Committee. Okay? And that's exactly what he said. Those are the 2 words that came out of Moses' mouth. Oy vey. Oy vey. Come on. Okay, you asked me to do a lot of things, go to Pharaoh, but now I got to raise money too? What am I going to do? He says, don't worry, I'll help you, and the people are going to be very charitable. Don't worry, they're going to come forth to this. But this is what I want you to do. So God starts off and he says, I want you to tell the people of Israel, V'yicholi truma. I want them to take a portion for me. Meaning you're going to come to them and you're going to say, look, this is the plan that we have. This is what we want to do. And I can't do this without you, because you are going to be the ones that are going to 444. Okay? We're going to do everything that is going to happen. It's only going to be up to you, and if you're going to be willing to come with me. And this is what I'm going to need. We are going to build something, and I need all of these goods. I need gold, I need silver, I need copper. Then I need a people who know how to embroider, who know how to knit, who know how to do all of these things, because we're going to make draperies, and we're going to make curtains, and we're going to do all this. And then I need woodworkers. I'm going to need, because we're going to have planks, and we're going to have sockets, and we do all of these things. And then I need special stones, valuable stones, a diamond, a this, a that, because the high priest is going to wear a breastplate, and each place is going to have a little setting, and we're going to put in little stones there. So these are the things that I need. Then he's going to set up a committee, and Betzalel and Eliyav, you two are going to run the show. Everybody's going to, and let's see how it goes. So God breaks it down and says there's 3 different types of fundraising going on over here. One is bring whatever you like, meaning that whatever you have at home, you want to give gold, you want to give copper, you want to give goat's hairs, which we're going to weave into this. You want to give tchashim, whatever animal that was, a tachash, we're not sure, but it was an animal that lived at that time. You want to give a stone, whatever you want to give, totally voluntarily, whatever you want. Now, that's one type of fundraising. The second one is going to be a little different. We're going to need silver. Now, what do you use silver for? The silver is going to be used for the sockets, because they're going to make planks of wood. That's going to be the tabernacle, and then they're going to cover it with drapery. But at the bottom, how are the planks going to stand? You're going to cut them out, and they're going to put them in these sockets, and these sockets are going to be made out of silver. How are we going to get that silver? Is not going to be voluntary. That silver is going to come to me by a tax, that everyone from the age of 20 and up is going to give men, because there's going to be another purpose to this as well. Everyone is going to give a half a shekel, 1/2 shekel to do this. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do a half a shekel, everybody. I don't want any more, I don't want any less, meaning that if someone comes and says, Rabbi, why bother doing this? I'll give 1,000 shkolim and don't worry about it. We'll cut. No, I don't care if you're Elon Musk or if you're his poor brother who has nothing. I don't care. Everybody gives a half a shekel, and then there's going to be another half a shekel that they're going to give for the communal services, for the communal sacrifices, which will then become permanent. So there's going to be 3 types of money that we're going to give. 2.5 shekels, bing, 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 and then everything voluntary. Now, one of the things that Moses, and I had mentioned, I spoke about this in Shul a couple of weeks ago, was one of the things that Moses was a little confused about, is God says to him, one of the half shekels that you're going to give is going to be for an atonement on your life. If you do anything wrong, this is going to be an atonement. And it says here, if you look in the, I'm sorry, it doesn't say it over here. It says it later on in Parshas Kisisa. When he talks about it in a couple of weeks, we're going to read it next week. He says it's for an atonement. That Moses couldn't grasp. What is the connection between giving a half a shekel to atoning for a sin? Doesn't get it. If you tell me, you want God to fast, you want to give another punishment, fine, I get it. Someone does something wrong, you want to bring a sacrifice. If you do something wrong, you do other whatever the punishment is. But how do I get an atonement by giving money? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense to Moses. So God showed him, our Medrash tells us, he showed him a fiery coin. The half shekel was burning. So Moses says, okay, I see a burning coin. So what's with the burning coin? God said, the half shekel has to come with fire, internal fire. Giving the half shekel and just dropping it into the pot, that's not going to be an atonement. If you want an atonement, it's got to come with passion from within you, understanding full well that I, number one, did something wrong. Now I need God's forgiveness. I'm giving this half a shekel, but the half a shekel is not what's going to give me atonement. What's going to give me atonement is the feeling of regret that I have, the feeling of the fire that's burning in my kishkis. That means in kishkis is Ladino, no? I think it's Ladino. It's Ladino for your intestines, okay? You're burning, this like kishkis. Okay, for those who are not, it's Yiddish, okay? It's Yiddish. It's Yiddish. I mean, everybody's confused. For your kishkis, it's got to burn in your kishkis, and when that atonement burns in your kishkis, then the half a shekel is going to work for you. But if you come cynically and you say, hey, you know what? I did something wrong, but I'm just going to flip a half a shekel into the pot. Guess what the half a shekel is going to do for you? Nothing. Nada. Gurnished. Zilch. Nothing. So then Moses said, okay, now I understand. Because many times we get confused. We say, yeah, you know what? There was once a story, for example, a guy, he had in his, in this portion we're going to read also this week in Shul about the priesthood. Who was the priesthood? Aaron and his sons. Who were the next generation of priests? Their sons. How do you become a kohen? One guy heard about this and came to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, I want to be a kohen. What? I read in the portion about kohen, I want to be a kohen. The rabbi said, can't be a kohen. We can't a kohen. You can't make a guy a kohen. Says, Rabbi, I want to be a kohen, and I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I see the congregation needs a few dollars. The roof is not repaired. I'll repair the roof. I'll put a new floor in, new sidders. The Hebrew school needs another classroom. I'll pay for it. Don't worry. All I want is make me a kohen. It came up to a bill of $111,000. For $111,000, the rabbi did some research. Can I make someone a kohen? And at the very last page, he said, oh yeah, I can. See, it's written right here. See this last page? Right here, you could write, I can make someone a kohen. Okay? He closes the book. He goes to the guy. He said, okay, you come to Shul on Saturday. I'm going to give you the first aliyah, and you'll be a kohen. He did that. But the rabbi felt very guilty. Felt very guilty. For $111,000, he did something that he didn't find in any literature of making someone a kohen. So years later, as he was about to retire, he decided he's got to find out why. I mean, the guy says, what's a weird request? I mean, really? I mean, nowadays there's other worse requests. Like now there's a thing called a bark mitzvah. Okay? Where you bring your dog at the big bar mitzvah. So it's called a bark mitzvah. Now, that's not going to be $111,000, by the way, if you want Shul by the shore. That's a minimum $250,000 gift. You give $250,000, your dog, not a kohen, but your dog becomes an Israelite, not a kohen. Kohen is $1 million minimum. Okay? But this guy, so the rabbi knocks on the guy's door. Man opens it up. He's surprised to see the rabbi because he hadn't seen him in all these years. Once he was a kohen, of course he doesn't come back to Shul anymore. Why should he? He got what he wanted. And the rabbi sat down and says, listen, all my years in the rabbinate, I had many crazy requests, but I never had a request to become a kohen. Why? He said, I don't know. My grandfather was a kohen. My father was a kohen. And I wanted to be a kohen. Okay? Ignorance cost him $111,000 because he was already a kohen. And he didn't know that. Okay? So there is money not well spent. Money not well spent. Although the Shul got it, and I'm sure it was well spent, but nonetheless, he could have saved himself a lot of anguish and a lot of $111,000. So this is what atonement is about. If you give money and you feel that, through this charity, I am making a commitment that I will not do what I did beforehand, the charity works. Buying an indulgence does not work. Because you're going to pay, I'm just going to pay off with a sin, especially if you don't regret it. Meaning, I got away with it once, I'm going to get away with it twice, and it cost me $10. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. That doesn't work. So God tells Moses, okay, that's going to be one of the commitments. That is going to be a half a shekel that's going to become a poll tax forever. Every year, everybody from the ages of 20 to 60, why those ages? Because that was when you were drafted in the army. Hey, from 20, before 20 you were exempt, after 60 you were also exempt. What you did, but the main fighters were 20 to 40. After 40 you were there like a supply group, whatever. You did, fix the roads, guarded worked the kitchen. But 20 to 40 were the warriors. After 40 you but everybody was eligible to be drafted from 20 to 60. After that, after 60 they didn't want you, saying, goodbye, have a good day. And that became part of it. But the other two taxes, the other two donations that we are working on right now, that was a one-time shot. The people came with so much goods. Moses was shocked. They came with so many goods because they felt guilty. This is after the golden calf. So they came with gold, and they came with silver, and with copper, and with all different types of wool, and whatever the temple, until Moses The only time ever in the history of a building campaign said, Dayenu. We have enough, we don't want any more, please. No other shul ever did that since. No. Every shul, we have more better. But that's what it was. So now we have the Jewish people have each at least give something towards the cause. We're ready now to build the tabernacle. Okay, fine. We have all of the different things. So if you look at verse number 8, for those who are following, you don't have to. God says like this. They shall, what do you do with all of these goods? What are you going to do with all of these goods? He says to Moses, they shall make a sanctuary for me, so I may dwell among them. Like everything that I show you, the form of the tabernacle, that's what you shall do. Okay? So, we have an interesting concept over here. Because grammatically, it doesn't fit. What do I mean by that? Because the Hebrew word is v'sachanti migdosh, make for me a tabernacle, v'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell in them. But how many tabernacles were there? One tabernacle. So why does it say v'shachanti betocham? It should say v'shachanti betocho. I will dwell in it, not in them, because them is plural. Now, I wish that this would be my question. It's not. It's obviously mentioned in the Talmud. And then what the Talmud answers it is that, you know what? Right? The tabernacle was only going to be for a little while till we get to the temple. And the temple was eventually going to be destroyed. We're going to build a second temple. But in the year 70, we destroy the second temple. And that's it. So what happens to the service? V'shachanti betocham. So God already had foreseen down later on where there's going to be no tabernacle, you are going to make the tabernacle. And where are you going to make the tabernacle? Right in your heart. Right here. That every single individual is now going to be responsible because we don't have a national address. We used to have. It used to be on the Temple Mount. There was a building over there. And we worshipped over there. And we did everything great over there, which was beautiful. And that was our central address. And anybody that needed something, whether you were happy, whether you were sad, whether you were guilty, whether it was a holiday, brought all of their sacrifices to this one location. But after 70 was done. It was over. So what do you do? Where do you do? So we could answer it in two ways. Number one is the one you love best, is that everyone now is going to be responsible on their own. Beforehand, you can rely on the Beis Hamikdash. You can rely on our house. You bring your sacrifice there. You give it to the Kohen. They bring it as it is, and then you're forgiven. What do you do now? What do you do now that there's no central location? You become the central location. We, each and every one of us, has to think to ourselves, you know what? I have to build that sanctuary in my heart. And how do I build it in my heart? So first of all, I have to make sure that my heart is clean. You build a building, you have to grade it and level it and do all of that stuff. Get all of the dirt out, before you can start building. So, one sur meira, divest yourself of any evil thoughts, of any evil actions. You only want to be positive. You want to be this. And then you start building on top of that. Once you have a graded area, you start building, good deeds. Good deeds on two levels. Good deeds, one, between man and man. Like, for example, be a good person, be a sympathetic person, try the best to extend yourself, don't get angry, don't take revenge, don't be a person that holds a grudge, be honest in business. Last night we had a case of, an employer-employee, where the employer promised something. No, I'm not going to go, don't worry. I'm not going to get into the details, trust me. I'm not getting into details where the employee promised the employer something, but then didn't come through with it. Does he illegally have things? The Torah says, do what's right. Be a mensch. That's the bottom line. Be a mensch. And what is the idea of being a mensch? Or what do you call being a mensch? Is you want people to say, this is the reason why God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, is look at them, look how they live. They live, with peace and tranquility and good feelings towards each other. They care for each other. They rally around each other. This is building a sanctuary within inside of you, and you carry all of those vessels with you. That must be God calling. Okay? You carry all of those vessels with you. We'll go through some of the vessels with you throughout your entire life. And that God is asking you to do that. V'shachanti betocham. I want to come and I want to abide in you. I want to live in you. I want to come and be a partner with you. But I can't unless you clean your house. If you're an arrogant person, God says, you know what? If you don't have place for someone else in your life, I can't be with you. I can't. It's either going to be you or it's going to be me and you. But if it's all about you, that, you know what, I need this, I need this, I need that, I need this, then it doesn't work anymore. But if you can show some humility and say to myself, you know what, I was put on this earth for a purpose. And that purpose was to make my 4 cubits. Anybody know what a cubit is? It's a measurement. It's about 18 inches. And there's an expression in the Talmud that everybody has 4 cubits around them. You know, that's so if, for example, if I want to give something to Linda, let's just say, I want to toss her something, and I throw this, and it lands within her 4 cubits, she's already, halachically, she's already owned it. And if somebody else grabs it from her, it's hers, because it's in her space, let's just say. All right? If you want me in there, you want me to join you, v'shachanti betocha, you want me to dwell within you, you have to make sure that that place is open for God to come in. And what does that mean? That means that you want to be number one, humility. You have to understand that it's not all about you. Yes, you have a destiny, and God made you, and you're not junk. You are a somebody, and you need to be respected. All of that is true. But you yourself feel that I am a humble servant, and I'm only here to do what God wants me to do. And God has set me here on earth to make this world a better place. So before I say something, before I direct my language or my actions towards somebody, think, is this a holy act or is it not a holy act? Am I doing this for myself or am I doing this because God would be proud of me? Why am I doing that? And that, my friends, if we can accomplish that, which is not easy, it's not easy because God gave us 2 drives. The one drive is what we're talking about, the good drive. You know what? The altruistic soul, which tells you, hey, be a good guy, be a nice guy, be forgiving. That's one drive that pushes us. But at the same time, God inserted into us this egotistical drive, which tells you, why should I be a good guy? It's a dog-eat-dog world where I'm going to be a sucker. I'm going to let people tread all over me. I'm going to let people run over me. No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab whatever I can, every deal. I'm going to squeeze every penny out of every deal. No one is going to, my parents did not raise me to be anybody's fool. Okay? I know, so everything now becomes about me. You know what? About me. Those 2 drives clash. And we know. Right? I'm not talking anything very esoteric. You wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, and you see it's all about me. Everything is about me. It started to rain right now as we were driving here. Right away, I'm thinking about how does it affect me? Do I care how does it affect 35 million other Californians? Kishmir, I don't care. They have to worry about themselves. Okay? I gotta worry about me. How does it affect me? How does the price of eggs affect me? You think I care about Denny's or IHOP? They have to buy eggs. Let them worry about themselves. I worry about my own omelet. Okay? So if I can get the last dozen eggs at a good price, I don't care who's there. Etty is me and Etty are going to run towards it. She's tackled. I don't care. I'll tackle her to get that last dozen eggs at a good price. She's a nice lady, but eggs are eggs. Okay? And $1.49 for a price of eggs is $1.40, which you won't see anymore. And now it's $11.49. But if I find a good price somewhere, Costco, whatever it is, don't get in my way. Okay? Do not get in my way. Don't think to yourself, oh, look at the rabbi. The rabbi, he's a nice guy. He's definitely going to let me get the last eggs. No chance. Zero chance of me letting you get the last dozen eggs for a good price. Where does that come from? Does it come from my altruistic soul? Does it come from v'shachanti b'tocham? I want to dwell in you. Oh, very nice. God looks down and said, oh, now look at the rabbi grabbing the last dozen eggs, from the congregation. Zeir Shein, very nice. Very proud of you. Very proud of you. But to be honest with you, I know I'm joking around, but those are the drives that we have. Those are the drives. We believe that life in general is a zero-sum game. Meaning, if I don't get it, you're going to get it. So better come to me. Why should I go to you? Let me get it. Love is not a zero-sum game. There's enough love to go around because I'm showing love to you or you're showing love to me. It doesn't mean that we don't have enough to go around. Everyone has enough capacity. It's not a zero-sum game. That's the way it is. But in our minds, we're told that. Our egotistical minds tell us that, you know what, and if you don't get yours, you know what, you're a sucker. That's what you are. You're a sucker. Don't come crying to me. Okay, you want the people to stomp all over you? Like this guy is leaving right now. I don't take it personally. Okay, Jay, I'm not taking it personal anymore. What? He's also that kind of guy that won't let you get the last done. Jason, there he is. See you, Jay. So here, this is what Hashem is talking about. In a way, v'shachanti b'tocho, let me dwell in you, is when you have to make a decision, because that's one of the few things that we have control over. A lot of things in life that we don't have control over, like the price of eggs. We don't have a control. It's I don't know, whatever it is. The price is. What we do have is we have control over how I make a decision, how I'm going to deal with circumstances that come my way. The experiences that come my way, someone rear ends me. There's a number of different ways I could react. Now, I don't know about you. I mean, I've mentioned before, I usually I have to get to my office. I come off Studebaker off the 405. It's the worst exit I've ever seen in my entire life. You have to turn your head, twist your head. I'm almost like that girl forget about it, in that movie that can turn her head all the way around. I didn't want to mention that, but you mentioned it, okay? Let it be shown on the record that Marcy was the one that mentioned it, okay? Okay? I feel if I wish I had that power, I could turn my head around, because you can't. You start to crawl out, you look there. How many times I've seen bumpers, and it happened to me twice already. I've been doing this route for 20 years. Okay? But how do you react when this happens to you? You could come out screaming and flailing and being angry, and you know what that gets you? Nothing. Zero. Nothing. Zero. Or you could say to yourself, look, you know what? Take a deep breath. I'm well, not hurt. The other person, not hurt. A scratch in the car. All right. Either I get it fixed, I don't get it fixed. I don't, no harm, no foul. It happened to me twice. Once was a young girl. He said, forget it. It's a small scratch. I'm going to take down her license and call the cops for this. So this is what you can decide. Those are things that we have in our power to decide of how we're going to react. And nobody could convince me otherwise. No, Rabbi, no. I have to get angry. If you don't get angry and you don't start screaming and you're not shouting. Now, there are going to be times where you do have to shout and get angry. I'm not saying to be passive all the time. A kid is running across the street and you start talking in a low voice. It's not going to help. You got to show anger. You can't do that. You know what? And put the fear of the kid, God forbid that they run across the street. So there are times where you do need to be bold and strong and angry and loud and vociferous. Yes, but that has to be done with a lot of first self-inspection. Then you go out there and do it. And that's what God is asking of us in this portion. Because the temple itself is easy to build. You got enough money, you build a temple, which is the second reason why we have the Tochanti B'Socham, build for me a sanctuary, which means we never really had the concept of a synagogue early on in biblical times. God never asked for a synagogue to be built. There was one made. But as time went on, especially in the Second Temple era, we do find in Israel old-time synagogues where people would commune and daven together and pray together and then worship together. And that became a big focal point within Judaism, is building a shul. Building a temple. Of course, we know what happens when you build a temple in town. 2 years later, there's an old story of the guy that was marooned on an island for 20 years. Then he's rescued by the British Navy. The guys come off the thing and they look at him. He's with it. He wants to show them around the island, and he shows them, here's the 2 temples that I built. He built 2 shuls. So the captain asked him, why 2 shuls? He says, this is the one I go to, and this is the one I'll never step foot in. Never. Okay? So a Jew has to have at least one shul he goes to, and one that he'll never ever walk into that shul again. So that's the way it is. But that's part of who we are, and that's the history. You have a temple, it grows. All of a sudden, what happens to a temple? So instead of letting it grow and grow and grow, no, what do? We split. Nah, the rabbi's too old, the rabbi's too short, the rabbi's too tall, the kishka's no good, the rebbitzin doesn't know how to cook. Boom, gone, finished. We start a new temple. So in America, with 6 million Jews, there's around 3 million temples. We have about 3 million. There's a temple for every 3-4 Jews in America. Okay, that's the way it goes. But this is part of what it is, coming together, communal, to work together, to pray together, to worship together, and hopefully to have a good time together. So that's basically the concept of what the sanctuary was all about. To be a focal point for human beings, for Jews specifically in the desert, to come together and to bring their sacrifices there, and etc., etc., etc. Then God goes down into tremendous detail. I mean, this is amazing. Commentators have thought about this over and over again. Every single article there, he gives details much more than other commandments. Like the commandment of Shabbos, which is incredible, he gives very few details. Don't work on the Sabbath. Let your ox rest on the Sabbath. Don't kindle a fire on the Sabbath. Gamarnu. That's it. There's 1,000 rules about Shabbos, which he doesn't mention. But when it comes to the tabernacle, now I'm going to tell you very specifically, the ark has to be 1.5 cubits by 2.5 cubits by 2.5 cubits. Okay? And it should be inlaid with gold, and gold on the inside, gold on the outside. It should have staves, that means poles, with little rings around them, and the rings should be attached to the ark, and the poles should be put into the ark and never removed. Means they have to stay there forever. So if we have to march, you're not going to look, hey, where are the poles? Dave, where'd you put the poles? I put the poles? I wasn't responsible for the poles. He was. Okay, where'd you put the poles? I don't know. She was. Helen, where'd you put the poles? No, my contract was up last June. I passed it to her. Okay, so God says, I know how it's going to work. Put the poles in and keep them there. Everything should be gold. Because, I don't know, they had a lot of gold there in the desert, a tremendous amount of gold. But this is the ark. This is going to be the number one important article in the tabernacle. It's going to have its own room called the Holy of Holies behind a curtain. And in there you're going to put the tablets. You're also going to put Sefer Torah. And you're going to put a little jar of the man is going to go in there to remember that we had the man. And that's going to go in there. And no one's going to be allowed to approach it except for the high priest once a year on Yom Kippur. And that's going to have its own very special place. So what does Betzalel do? Betzalel listens very closely to the instructions. And how he does it, it's not simply just making a box and putting gold on it. No. He makes 3 boxes. He makes a gold box, a wooden box, and then another gold box. And he takes the first gold box and inserts it into the wood box, so the inside is all gold. Then he takes this box, the wood box, and inserts it into a larger gold, so he has both on the inside and on the outside all gold, but the center is wood and it holds. I mean, he was a genius, this guy. As a matter of fact, Betzalel was such a genius that he clashed with Moses. Because when Moses gets the commandments, the first commandment he gets is the ark. Then he gets the table. Then he gets the menorah. Then he starts getting to the structure itself. So he tells Betzalel, this is how I want you to do it. I want you to make the ark and this. And Betzalel says, no, listen. You appointed me as the architect here and as the contractor. Let me tell you something. You're Moses, I understand. You have a special position where you know God, but no one builds a house like this. No one builds a bedroom set before you have a bedroom. First you got to build the bedroom, and then we build the bedroom set. And Moses said, okay, you're right. So that was, Betzalel was a brilliant architect and contractor. So first he built the tabernacle, then he built all of the vessels inside. After the ark came in, because we know what the ark is, and we know what the ark means to us, it means that's a very special place in our life that is sacrosanct, that's where the Torah resides, and nobody is going to, no, that's the Pintalayid, that every single Jew has this one little spark of Jewishness inside of them that never gets erased. Because a lot of times throughout history, we've had Jews have left the fold. It's not for me. I'm not interested. I don't want the mitzvahs. I don't want the Torah. But eventually down the line, no one gets lost, everybody gets turned around sooner or later, hopefully, and that little spark that's laying there dormant gets woken up by who knows what, October 7th, or God forbid something, maybe on the good part, he experiences a good chicken soup at some Rebbitzon's house, and that wakes up the spark of Judaism. Who knows what it is going to be, but that spark gets awoken. That's the ark. That thing never gets lost. It's always there. You just got to find it within the person and wake it up and when a spark. Then comes the table. It's interesting about the table, because the table, again, he gives them it has to be a certain time high between each 12 loaves every Saturday. People couldn't understand 12 loaves every Saturday. Well, usually for a king, what do? You think he eats old bread? When does a king get bread? Every day new. Can you imagine bringing a king 12 days old bread? Miracle. The miracle was that it lasted from Shabbos to Shabbos. So they had to bake it the week before, and it lasted all week. It was fresh and anyways. That was, of course, the table represented to us our table. So you look at it. You look at a table on a Shabbos table. You have the challah there. You have the wine there. You have and like I mentioned before. Excuse me. What is the most important piece of furniture you have in your home? The dining room table. There's no more important piece of furniture that you have in your house. It's not the 85-inch screen TV. Forget about it. That's not the most important thing. It's not what's going on in your library. It's not your bedroom. It's nothing. The most important piece of furniture in your house is your dining room table, because that's the place where your family is going to sit a lot of the time, hopefully together, and unfortunately less and less these days, where everybody's on their own and eating whatever, but that's where we come together. That's where our values are formed, and you can tell. I'm telling you, now I've been in the business already more than 3 years, in the rabbinate. So now I could tell you, when I meet somebody, and I observe them just for a little while, I can tell you what their family life was like. You can tell people who were around the table and they spoke nicely to each other and they talked about things, serious things, and they developed a close relationship to each other. It carries with them throughout their entire lives. You don't have to be with your family. And those people that didn't, you can tell that this person ate in this room, this person ate in that room, they didn't leave. Even when they ate together, everybody was on their phones. I mean, imagine. So one of the things which is incredible that unfortunately not enough people take advantage of is the Friday night Shabbos meal, to be together with a family. I mean, that is, now, what if you don't have a family? So, even if you're alone, and I know it's not very comfortable being alone, but even if you're alone on a Friday night and you make yourself something special, whatever it's going to be, the challah, the soup, whatever it's going to be, and then you try your best. But imagine with a family, you sit there, everybody puts away all of the devices. Everything is gone. No phone, no computer, no TikTok, no schmicktok, nothing. For the next hour or two, we're going to sit here and we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm the father. Who are you? Okay? And your family members, and you get to know them. And if you can do that, if you can accomplish that, however it is, that, it's like that old story. In a few weeks, the holiday's coming up? Purim. But it comes right after Purim? Pesach. Exactly. So the story. The father calls up his daughter. He says to her, Janet, I have some news to tell you. Me and mom are getting divorced. What? How can it be? You're getting divorced? So she hangs up. She gets on the phone. She gets on the phone with Jonathan. Says, Jonathan, did you hear? Dad just called me. Him and mom are getting divorced. I can't believe this. How could this happen? I mean, no. Okay, we got to save the situation. She calls back Dad. She says, Dad, I don't want you to do anything. Me and Jonathan are coming. We're going to sit down as a family and we're going to work. We're going to hash it out. Dad says, okay. If you're going to force me, I was going to do it right away. But if you tell me you want to hash it as a family, okay. He hangs up the phone. He turns to his wife, Sarah, the kids are coming home for Pesach. Okay? All right? That's the way you get the kids to come home. You get the kids to come home for Pesach, right? So that's what the table represents. Okay? That's communal, your family, the way we eat. With those many rabbis that refuse to eat ever eat a sandwich. They felt it's not menschlich. It's not nice. I have to open up your mouth, especially if you see these sandwiches, they press them down like this. It's not menschlich. The way you eat, you have to cut it slowly. And that represents, of course, the table in our lives, those things that we're allowed to do. It's a mitzvah to eat, but how we eat and how we commune and how we talk and how we approach the whole idea, of food and all of this is something else. Okay, we'll go one more. And then I promise that for the last few minutes, if you have any questions, we'll go. But I just want to talk about the menorah. And then we'll stop at the menorah. And then we'll open up for questions and answers. And Dave was going to answer because I'm leaving. Okay? All right. Okay. So the menorah. The menorah was made out of one piece of gold, it says. Miracle. I mean, it was a miracle. I mean, how do you find a piece of gold that's like this tall and this, whatever it should be? God said to Moses, I want you to make the menorah and carve it out of this piece of gold. Okay? Very, very intricate. There's knobs and there's cups and there's flowers and there's stems and there's branches. Very, very, God showed him a visual picture of how he wants the menorah done. Okay? If you look it up online, you'll see how it is. Commentators have argued among themselves exactly how the menorah looked, but we go according to Maimonides. Before he left. Okay, he left. He didn't hear, he's busy. But Maimonides, we go according to Maimonides' opinion that the branches were straight out, not curved like we have here by the Knesset. They have the curved ones. Maimonides argues they were straight out, and that's the way we figure that's the way it was. What does the menorah represent in our lives? So number one is the oil that went into the menorah was very, very special. You only took the first drop of every olive, meaning it had to be crystal clear. Can you imagine the time it took? You took an olive, squeeze it, the first drop, move on. Next, move on. I mean, so it took a lot of people to make the oil for the menorah. The rest of the olive you can use for other parts of the service, but for the menorah it had to be absolutely crystal clear oil. Meaning, in our lives, you want to be, oil has to be clear, you have to be good, the best for God. But more important than anything, what did the menorah do? It gave light. And that's what we need to do. We need to be that menorah to give light. Meaning that how we look at ourselves, am I adding light to the world or am I adding darkness to the world? It's one of two things. If I'm adding light to the world, I'm a menorah. I'm a walking, living candelabra. Wherever I go, I add light and I add warmth and people are happy and people are joyous and I'm uplifting and I'm inspirational. Or I'm not a menorah. And what does a non-menorah do? It adds darkness, dissension, arguments. So that in your life you need to make a decision. You know what? Are you a menorah or are you not a menorah? Now, if you're a menorah, you know that you have a responsibility to add. The tabernacle didn't need the menorah to add light. You know how many candelabras were in the temple that Solomon built? He tells you many all over the walls that were these huge torches that were for light. The menorah had a special spiritual power to spread out outside because the windows were made where the light from inside the temple went out into the world. And that's us. We need to be the light spreaders, and God only knows in today's day and age, with all of dissension, with all of this, the division that we have, both in our country and in the world, how much more so we are responsible for being that light unto the world. I'm going to leave it here because there's just about a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions. Now, when it's open mic night, meaning that you can ask questions, I'm not going to may not be able to answer all of your questions, but there doesn't have to be any specific topic, as long as it has to do with, don't ask me anything in physics, okay? Rabbi, I want to know about kinetic energy. You know what? I graduated high school 7 years ago, and I forgot everything, okay? So go, Carol, we'll start with you.
On Sunday, I was listening on tape, one of your classes, okay?
Yeah.
But underneath that, there was another tape, and the title was The Awakening, the reason why the most hated people, okay? And so I'm listening to it, and basically they said, the reason we are hated so much is because we got the Ten Commandments from Mount Sinai, okay?
Yep.
And it's not supposed to be just us. We're supposed to give it to everyone. But
Correct.
there are certain people in the world that didn't want that,
Correct.
including Hitler,
Yeah.
and including the people in Russia,
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. Have you ever heard that? The
Yes.
awakening?
Yes. Yes.
Is this
I mean,
something-
look, anti-Semitism is an issue that we're not going to spend 5 minutes on. It's the oldest hatred in the world
Right, that's what-
because you can't get rid of it. It's stuck around and stuck around and stuck around. Only difference is it warps into different kind of anti-Semitism. Early on, it was religious anti-Semitism, where the church fathers hated us because we were different. So that was religion. Okay, so you thought to yourself, okay, maybe I'll convert and they'll love us. That didn't help. Okay? Then it morphed into nationalism. Then it morphed into, genetics. Because like race, thank you, race. Now it's morphed into Zionism. Make no mistake, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. I mean, you're not going to bifurcate this, saying, "Oh, I love Jews, but I hate Zionists." That doesn't. I don't buy that for 1 second. So anti-Semitism, and there's a lot of root causes, for this. One of them is religion. We know we've always prided ourselves on being the light unto the nations, that we are going to be God's water carriers, and we bring morality and ethics and this and that to the world, and they don't like it. So you know what? Also, we happen to be small, and when you're small, you're the other, and we're an easy target. If I've always said you want to solve anti-Semitism, it's a very simple solution: convert the 1.3 billion Chinese. If you can get all the Chinese to become Jews, you solved anti-Semitism overnight. No one's screwing with you anymore. I promise you. Nobody is screwing with the Jews if you can get the Chinese to convert. But so far, I've written letters to Xi. No help whatsoever. No help whatsoever. So we got to do what it has. All right, go ahead, Sylvia. Here comes a tough one. I know.
Setting aside your good humor from before, I want to mention when I had my bat mitzvah this month, I'm having my anniversary of my bat mitzvah, and during the Haftarah portion, I was chanting this concept of form. The word just kept coming up again and again, and I'm noticing it's here, and here it says, et tavnit hamishkan ve'et tavnit kol kelah.
Right.
Okay, as
Form.
far as the form of the tabernacle and the form of all the vessels.
Correct.
My question is this: since Hashem is seeking to bring all these people and He wants to dwell among us, why didn't He just say the tabernacle, the vessels? Why did this extra wording is added here?
Are you talking about the word form?
The form of, yes.
Because I think Moses had a difficult time understanding what they were. See, like for example, if you look, I don't know if you look, take a look at the not the Shulchan, but at the menorah, page 451. Okay, so Moses had a very difficult time understanding exactly what God meant with everything that he was talking about: the knobs, the cups, the flowers, all of these things. And God said, "This is what I want you to do. Look at the form of this menorah, and I want you to follow it with exact instructions." Because if he would have said, "I want you to build me a tabernacle," could have been a tabernacle to any tabernacle. But God wants, that was very specific. Now, why was it so specific? That's a whole different discussion for a different time. But everything here relates to something that God wanted to, and that's why he was emphasizing the idea, do not deviate. This is exactly what I want. There were three draperies on top of the tabernacle. Why didn't he need 3 draperies? But that's the form that I wanted, and that's, I think, why he wanted him to do that, because it was complicated and Moses was just trying to understand. But he says, I want you to, before you go out there, I want you to make sure you understand completely what I want. I don't want you to do two covers or 4 covers, 3, and the 3 have to be very specific. One from this kind of wool, one from that kind of wool, the third, and that's why I think he uses the word form to make sure he gets it exactly, precisely correct.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Take your time.
Why did they not build a third temple?
Oh, okay. It's a very good question. Why don't they just build a third? Why didn't they build a third temple? So historically, if you read after 70, and especially after the War of Bar Kokhba, which was 132, 136, which was 50, 60 years after, the Jews played no role in the Middle East. Very little. The Romans had run over the Middle East and Israel and drove out the majority of Jews out of Israel and that was it. So there was no one to build the temple, and there was not only no one to build the temple. Prophecy also ended 500 years before. The last prophets of Zechariah and Haggai and all of these and Ezekiel, who prophesied there'll be another temple, and then Ezra came along and brought the Commonwealth, and you had the Persians who supported us in building the temple. That was gone. So there was no opportunity. And once Jews settled in the diaspora, that was it. End of discussion. Now, because there's so many different factions, there is a group of Jews in Israel that would like to build a temple. That say why we now, since 1948, we control this land. Let us build a temple, but they're a small minority. And the problem is that if you want to build a temple, right now there happens to be a mosque on that Temple Mount. You're going to take down that mosque. I don't know what's going to happen, but they certainly are not going to be happy. The Muslims in the world will not be happy if you did that. So I think until Mashiach comes, I don't think we're going to get a third temple. When Mashiach comes, he'll build a third temple. Let me get to Steve, and then we'll go to Marcy. Okay, Steve, you. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought someone here. Marcy, the floor is yours. I thought Steve had a question.
Multi-part question.
Multi-type question. Okay.
So there's a prohibition about driving on Shabbos, right?
Correct.
And does that prohibition also apply to certain holidays?
Yes.
Not
It applies to all the
holidays.
biblical holidays, if they're biblical in nature, meaning Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Those where it says in the Torah, Kol Malacha, you can't do any work. So any day that you can't do any work, you can't drive, because it's part of the prohibitions that we came up with on Shabbat. So Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot.
And if you don't live near a synagogue, are you prohibited from riding to a synagogue if someone else is driving?
You say inside a vehicle? Yes.
Synagogue.
Yes. It's still prohibited. It's still prohibited. There's many technical reasons why it is. One is, first of all, you're adding to the energy of the car, whatever it is going to be, the weight. Well, it's minor, but still. Number two, it's called maris ayin. People are going to see you driving in a car, and they're going to say, oh, it's permitted to drive in a car on Shabbos. Because I come from Boston. I don't know how many people here have ever been to Boston. There's a green line. The green line runs one way you pay, one way you don't pay. What's wrong with Shabbos? Just jumping on the green line. You don't have to pay. There's no money involved. So why don't I just jump on the green line and take it to wherever I want to go? The problem is maris ayin. They're going to see a rabbi sitting there on the train. They're not going to realize it's for free. So they're going to think that driving on a train is allowed on Shabbos, so that's why you're not. It's called maris ayin. I mean, I'm sorry, but Orthodoxy wanted very much people to live close by, so you'll have to walk to Shul. All right? I think we'll leave this for now. Next week we'll pick up more. Ask the rabbi, come with some questions, and then we won't let you ask them. All right? Here we go. Thank you.